Hello everyone, and welcome back to Transcendent Philosophy. This is Seth here, and today we're going over episode 1 of After Socrates Simplified. After Socrates is a series started by John Vervaeke, and he calls it a Socratic spirituality, which seems to be based on dialectic into dialogos. So that's kind of the main thrust that we'll be learning about. Today we've got 7 topics to go through. Circling, After Socrates, Imaginary versus Imaginal, The Sage, The Way, Midwifery, and Inventio/reciprocal reinterpretation. We also have 4 practices to go over: dialogical reflection, imaginal engagement and enaction, study, and meditation. Circling. The primary purpose of circling is the transformation of your way of being through authentic relating. It is focused on how much access to aliveness and connection you have in the present moment. We may explore thoughts and feelings and desires about the past and the future, but only to the extent that they are alive in the present moment. I think the reason Vervaeke brings up circling is that he's trying to get us in the frame of mind to where we are thinking about the dialectic as a relational project, as an interactive communal project. And this is an example of this authentic relating between people, is a type of dialectic. After Socrates, Vervaeke mentions that there are about 4 different ways in which we are after Socrates. We are after Socrates chronologically in terms of time, whereas Socrates is a man from history, and we are in the present day. Number 2. We are after Socrates in the sense that we are after some prey, as if we are tracking and hunting Socrates. Number 3, we are after Socrates in likeness, or we are catching Socrates like a virus. We are trying to be transformed into becoming like Socrates. Number 4, we are after Socrates as our leader, in that we follow him as a disciple, and we are behind him. In that sense, we are after Socrates. As you can see, we are after Socrates chronologically, after Socrates in time, and so we can learn from his history. We are after Socrates the prey, so we are tracking the animal. We are after Socrates in likeness, so we are putting on his image symbolically. We are embodying Socrates. We are after Socrates the leader, in that we are following or dialectically engaging with Socrates. Imagination versus imaginal. Imagination, thinking of something as an object or an it from the third-person perspective. When we are thinking of this object, we are obtaining an objective understanding. Imaginal, thinking of something as a self, an I, from the first-person perspective. When we are thinking of something as a self, we are doing subjective empathy. With our imagination, we see this external object of the deer that we are hunting. But when we are engaging in imaginal practices, we are putting ourselves in the position of the deer to think how the deer would think. Imagination involves externalized modeling. When we think about a superhero, we have this external image of the superhero that we are placing in this mind space. But with imaginal practices, we are engaging in internalized embodying. We are putting on the costume of the superhero. We are physically acting out the role of the superhero. We are putting that external model into practice. John Vervaeke mentions the value of imaginal practices with the example of the people who are investing in their retirement. When they imagine the problem of retirement, it doesn't motivate them to change their behaviors, but when they engage in that imaginal empathy to actually think about the people who they love who will be relying on this retirement fund, that actually motivates them to change their behavior. And so this imaginal mode of being seems to have a lot of psychological import in helping us transform, which I think is where Vervaeke is going with this. As the child is to the adult is to the sage, Socrates. I think Vervaeke invokes this saying because he wants to help put us in a growth mindset. He wants to help bring us into the frame of mind that we're not done developing at the age of 25. There is a long line of progression ahead of us. And this is kind of the dialectic pathway that the whole series is about. When we're engaging in a dialectic, when we're conversing with the goal of truth, we're not conversing to destroy each other. We're not conversing to virtue signal. We're not conversing to win points and win prestige, to win fame. We're not bad faith actors. We are good faith actors engaging in the dialectic. Where does that lead you? That leads you upwards in a spiral where you and your interlocutor, the people you converse with, are helping each other grow upwards in wisdom and truth and goodness. And so I think what Vervaeke is trying to inspire us with is that this belief that we can grow, that we can transcend these bad faith actors, that we can become good faith actors, and we can grow in wisdom. The Tao. 道生一，一生二，二生三，三生万物。道德经第42章. This is a verse from the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is talking about how the Tao is the metaphysical beginning of reality. It is the thing that causes the Big Bang. It says the Tao produces the one, and the one produces the two produces the three, and the three produces all things. Now, this is a very vague scripture. It's been interpreted different ways. But in general, there's the belief that the Tao is the initial causal factor, and that the two that gets produced is the yin-yang. And so this yin-yang concept emerges out of the Tao. And so what does that mean? So one way to think about the Tao is as the flow of nature, or the laws of physics. It is nature. And so this Tao, it transforms. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can transform. And so the Tao transforms from the one into the two, and now it's flowing in different ways. It's the yin-yang is the two different opposing flows of energy. And you can see symbols and reflections of that. Even Newton's third law of physics says for every force there is an equal and opposite force. So there's all these different forces. As water flows above the earth, there are different forces at play that contradict and coincide with each other, right? Well, is the purpose of the Tao to show that there's conflict, that opposites must attack and destroy each other? No. The concept of the Tao is about the harmony between opposites, how their different natures actually work together into this greater flow of the Tao. And so when we're thinking about the dialectic, we're thinking about two different people that are engaging in a conversation. And these two different people, they might have opposing views, right? And so in this conversation, is one person supposed to destroy the other person because they're opposite in views? No. They complement each other, they harmonize, and they work together in this flow trying to generate truth. Midwifery. Socrates was the philosophic midwife. He was helping people to give birth to their own wisdom. And Jesus was a spiritual midwife, helping people give birth to their own spirituality. So what is midwifery? Perhaps it is bringing forth something new and good from within. And since we're focused on this transformation, midwifery is helping bring forth that transformation from within. Inventio. It means to discover and create. Reciprocal reinterpretation. It means to have a cycle of deeper understanding. So we already discussed how we have these different ways of being after Socrates, by learning, by tracking, by embodying, by following. Well, as we go through this process, we can cyclically engage in inventio and reciprocal reinterpretation. What does that mean? Well, we can, as we learn, we discover how we need to transform. And then tracking, we discover even more. And then by following and embodying, we are creating and we are transforming ourselves into the image of what we have learned. But then we have to be skeptical and we have to say, did we learn properly? Did we transform properly? And so that's when we engage in reciprocal reinterpretation, where we look back on the process and we say, well, did we do that learning well? Did we do that transforming well? And we think about it, and then we learn some more, and we track some more, and then we transform some more. And so it creates this spiral upwards of transformation. Practices. The first practice is dialogical reflection. How do we do it? We got to start by reading some wise quotes, and then we have to resist the first interpretation, and resist the second interpretation, and resist the third interpretation, and then we ponder what all this means. So we're trying to get deeper into the text, and the only way to get deeper is to be skeptical of the initial interpretations. And so by being skeptical 3 times, we're going 3 layers deep. The second practice, imaginal engagement and inaction. How do we do that? Imagine yourself in a situation. Consider what you value in the situation. Consider implications. What is the purpose of this? As we said before, the imaginal exercises will help us put ourselves in the frame of mind where transformation becomes more likely. Practices. Study. How are we supposed to study? We need to learn to the point of knowing how to explain, attract, and persuade people to what we learn. So we're learning for the purposes of a dialectic. We want to engage with other people, share, and pull people into this spiral of truth with us. And so we need to treat it as sacred because it's part of this transformational process. Monkey brain. Monkey brain is the propensity for distraction. It's that nature that we all have. The final practice, meditation. How do we meditate? First, find your center. Don't calculate your center. Feel, find, track your center. Relax and open. Second, follow your breathing. Don't try to force your breathing. For example, you can let yourself start to suffocate because you're not breathing, at least not consciously. But then when your body begins to desire air, you'll begin to start breathing naturally, subconsciously, and you can just follow that subconscious flow instead of consciously forcing it. Third, notice distractions. You're going to be distracted because you have a monkey mind. So when you notice a distraction, label it with an ing word. Thinking, pondering, something, remembering, something like that. And after you label the distraction, return your attention to your breath. Overcome the monkey mind. Don't train a dog by fighting it, and don't train a dog by indulging it. Train a dog by befriending it and guiding it with rewards and reminders. What are the benefits of meditation? It's like building a muscle of focus. Maybe it's hard to focus, but if you practice focusing, you get better at it. And so you start practicing focusing on your breathing, and then once you get good at that, maybe you can practice focusing on other things. Like there's a meditation called the loving kindness meditation where you focus on the concept of love and kindness. So you can point your mind towards abstract concepts instead of towards your breath. And this can help improve the relationship between your mind and your body. And you can remind yourself that hallucinations are not signs of insanity, nor are they signs of revelation, but you can think of them just as mental distractions. And that concludes After Socrates Simplified, Episode 1.